Well, this isn't a typical day in the office. Here we are at last, back to reviewing Frogwares' catalog of Holmes games, and where better to pick back up than from the beginning. The Mystery of the Mummy is the first Sherlock Holmes mystery Frogwares made, and the worst, according to Steam reviews. Why is this? Well, when first booting the game up, this is the screen size, plus the cursor was uncooperative. Thankfully, there are forums with links that help fix things with an updated version of the game's engine. However, there are still a couple of caveats. While I managed to get control of the cursor, it was inverted no matter what I did. So if you see me handling the cursor with the grace of a drunk man, you know why. Plus, recording this game is not impossible, but I had to record the entire desktop to make it happen. So if there are any clips where you see a black box up top, that's just blocking out the notification. So, with all that out of the way, here's one more disclaimer. This isn't a traditional review. This is basically how Mandalore Gaming reviewed Limbo of the Lost and Ring. A linear, spoiler-filled journey through the most mind-numbing experience of my lifetime. So far. If you are willing, join me as I show you the fruits of my labors.
Dear Sherlock Holmes, thank you so much for your interest in this affair. Finally, I've found some peace after knowing that the matter of the disappearance of my father, Lord Montgarth, 6 months ago, is now being investigated by you.
Okay, the audio mixing has not aged well,
I know that you will find
and neither have the character models. You can review the letter later, so I'll give the condensed version. Elizabeth Montcalf, your future cousin-in-law, asks you to investigate the death of her father, Lord Montcalf. Dark Mage Watson's out of town, so no magic for this one.
Mr. Sherlock Holmes, I suppose. Here is a letter for you from your cousin, Elizabeth Montcalf. Thank you very much. Good luck, Mr. Holmes. So it is the manor of Lord Montcalf.
Oh lord! Seeing how poorly the characters have aged is bad enough, but Holmes needing glasses is worse. From here, we're in control and get to explore. The controls seem simple enough. You look around by edging the cursor towards a direction, and click on a place to move when indicated. You can find and pick up items to put into your inventory, and any notes you find are logged in the menu. However, besides the inverted cursor, the screen will be stubborn and not let you move it. A quick fix is to move the cursor around like crazy until it does as intended. As for notes, the butler gave you one from Elizabeth, warning you about traps and that the key to move forward is somewhere around here. We interact with the Sphinx and get our first puzzle. It's simple enough, just look at the sarcophagi and the years written on the plaques. After that, you get the key. I certainly do hope that every puzzle is as fair as this one. As we explore the rooms and pick up items, I will say that the environments contribute well to the story. Lord Montcalf was an archaeologist, and these rooms showcase a lot of his work. The artifacts themselves belong to a priest named Aton, whose corpse is said to be cursed. We can even find a photo of Elizabeth, clearly wanting to be an archaeologist herself. We'll find more clues later on, but the mystery does evolve in a stimulating way, especially after this.
A mummy. Quite an unusual inhabitant of a manor.
Add Scooby and the gang here and we would have had the best crossover yet. First though, let's talk about puzzles. Our second one is this doorway. It requires talismans to unlock, which you will find scattered throughout. The display here highlights how the symbols on the door and the talismans are connected, which should make this easy. Still, even with all 4 talismans, nothing works. I tried for a long time before looking up a guide. It turns out there is a 5th talisman hidden in a box you can only find if you look down, which of course I didn't because who the crud would. Disassemble the box with a hammer and get the talisman, lid, and something from the cupboard for later. Finally, we get into the study, and our way of progressing forward is to find a few cogs and some fuel for the fire. After this, we move on and run into our very first crash. Actually, this happens every time you transition to a new level. I don't know what causes it, but I found a solution. Just save before entering a new level and you're good to go. We go from the study room into a library. Which is apparently the snazziest library in the world. On the topic of music, it is rather excellent, well composed and usually different up until the end of the game. I have each track playing in the background of each respective level, and most of them do well at setting a tone. The library's exit requires a key, but locating it is pretty simple. Just rearrange misplaced books and put them back on their respective shelves until the key is found. From the library, we enter a hallway leading to rooms with their own conundrums to solve. The first room is a parlor where we find an empty coffin with sand in it. This very same sand can be found in a bath just up ahead. The mummy is real, or, at the very least, somebody is committing to a bit. Also in the room are a couple of pictures of Montcalf, one of them including some artifacts that weren't on display in the previous level. Why though? What's even more curious is a letter from Elizabeth indicating that her father didn't want her to become an archaeologist. The next room is Lord Montcalf's study, which has been ransacked, but we can still find a few interesting tidbits. There's a family tree with nearly every name crossed off except Elizabeth's. There are also two ledgers, one being a forgery and the real one behind a painting whose weak point cannot be easily discerned. Montcalf is hiding something, and Holmes isn't the only one who noticed. A society called Dawn of the Gods helped finance Montcalf's final dig, but got mad when he started hiding certain artifacts for himself. And it seems that they may even be here, because outside... How is the audio worse here? I know it sounds like I'm giving an old game a hard time for having certain limitations, but keep in mind that Mystery of the Mummy was released in 2002. There are already games with either good or excellent sound mixing, even the Chamber of Secrets on PC. Compared to those, this game ranges from either okay to this. It seems even Elizabeth herself wants to know what goodies her father got from his plunge into Aton's depths. But what he writes here is... ominous. But not as ominous as the puzzles. The library one is fine, but the difficulty spikes upward from here. The bedroom is the only inaccessible room, and the key to it is on the other side. It took me a while to find out what I was supposed to do, but you need soap from the bathroom, the fake ledger, and a pipe cleaner. It's not that the puzzle itself is bad, but the pieces were in separate rooms and had no indication as to what was needed. After that, the puzzles inside the bedroom are kinda tame, but one requires pieces you need to find in a lion's head only moved by a cane. The other one just requires clicking hieroglyphics in the right order, which gives access to an Egyptian cane you can use on a fan. The item it was hiding was... a golden scarab. This is used to open a compartment to find the Dawn of Gods letters. Okay, but what is this cane also used for? Well, the hallway also had a fake statue near the library, and it requires two. Just one to go. It's in the study, and the puzzle to obtain it is horrendous. Did you think trying to find the hole in a picture was hard? Try this sliding puzzle! I'm no stranger to this. Arkham Knight had a sliding puzzle, and I managed to get 2/3 of it done without using Catwoman. This one was an eternity of trial and error, where I seemed to be getting close, but I resorted to just starting over again until I gave up. If you haven't noticed, there is a pattern here. The level starts with some fair puzzle solving, but then throws a curveball at you that crushes your spirit. I assumed the logic was to raise the difficulty as you went further into the level, but it almost feels like a trap I can't escape without a guide. Still, I grabbed the second cane, and the fake statue opens.
Bingo.
You know, I'm surprised he hasn't tried to chase us down to groovy music. We enter a wine cellar, the only visible clue being that someone ate here recently. Turn the bed over, however, and you'll find a small statue of Anubis. You'll need it. The only way forward is through a fake wall, but how do we get in? We clear off a wine rack and find other bottles from the shelves, which of course are hard to find because of the inverted cursor and because the interactable bottles are very well hidden. Stack those up to reveal yet another sliding puzzle! We're not 5 minutes in, and this level already makes me feel like I'm going through a cognitive inferno. Okay, that's an exaggeration. It's not that the puzzles are devoid of logic, it's just that they were made by puzzle lovers for puzzle lovers. We finally solve it, but we first need to assemble items to create a torch. This starts a timer on the right, and if the timer reaches 0, it also crashes when trying to get back in, and the only workaround is to exit the game. So there are 2 reasons not to test the timer. Beyond the fake wall is what looks like a laboratory. We find notes from Lord Montcalf that show an almost obsessive curiosity about immortality and reincarnation. This is most likely because of some health issues as indicated by the medicine. He's also become paranoid, suspecting the Dawn of Gods of turning family members against him, hence the traps. As for puzzles, we find a few items hidden away in the room, one of which is under a table where nobody would ever see it, even without an inverted cursor. There's also a drawer rigged to explode, so unlock it wrong, do it right, and get another Anubis statue. The room on the left is a storage room with urns. Figuring out the solution is where I realized how bad the fidelity is. You're just putting in items corresponding to each stand's element. The problem is that with how blurry everything is, I can't tell what the symbols are. Is that fire? Something else? You don't know until you put the item in. There's this section right here with a rotating room and how I got the 3rd and 4th statue, but I forgot to record it. But that's fine. This entire level was already a gauntlet I could barely comprehend. I'm not going through it again. The final puzzle measures how much water you need to put into a bucket to raise a table from the center of the room. It's where the Anubis statues go.
Damn it! I do not have the 5th statuette! Oh, to lose after being so close to victory! In fact, it is pity, Mr. Sherlock Holmes. Do not turn around. I am armed. Obey me. Hands up. I am watching you, and I am ready to shoot at any moment. Jonathan Parquet, you should be very glad to meet me.
This is the same Parquet whose name was crossed off in the parlor room, and whom Montcalf suspected of treachery. So the Lord's paranoia wasn't unwarranted. Parquet has come to find his uncle's secret artifacts, and has brought the 5th statue to open the way. Unfortunately for him, the way is a death trap set up by the mummy itself, and the room collapses. Not even the Mystery Gang had to deal with stuff like this. Okay, never mind. Level 4 does not start slowly. Scorpions are right under your feet, and if you don't act fast, you need to grab buckets and place one on the scorpion so you can move away safely. You'll want to trap the scorpion on the other side and get a plank of wood for later. You'll also need to grab Parquet's... Wait, that's a woman's purse. And inside is a note to Parquet about the mummy. One of the members of the Dawn of Gods? Or maybe its leader. The rotating room has collapsed as well, revealing the machinery. Use the wooden plank to get across here, and don't forget the chain, which we'll need to swing across Tarzan style. The wine cellar is nearly destroyed, and our entrance is caved in. We do find another way, but it's blocked by another puzzle. Using a brush we pick up on the top wall reveals a number. So, by deductive reasoning, press every 3rd tile? It worked! Oh, don't forget the gunpowder here like I did. You'll need it. We're back in the starting area, which is nearly demolished. We can find a note on the table that indicates that Lord Montcalf is alive, and wants us to... touch time. Obviously, it's a clock. But that's not all. We also find the mummy's sand along with gray hair. Gang, I believe we solved the mystery. A chandelier blocks our path forward, so the only way to go is up. 2 of the rooms are on fire, but one door reveals a secret entrance. How do we get in? Fiddle with the painting by the stairs to find secret levers. Something wedged in the mirror could help, but none of our items can get it out. How about this pin you can't see because of how blurry the screen is? It works! And it tells you exactly what to do. Opening the secret door brings us back to the hallway, which is also demolished. A couple of rooms are either on fire or drenched in smoke. However, some of the damage wasn't from the collapse. Someone has been deliberately making a mess. The only clues are a blue cloth and an assumption.
This glass was smashed by something very narrow, like the heel of a woman's shoe.
Never mind, gang, this mystery is more complex than I thought. Now comes the next puzzle, and it's honestly a nightmare. You go into a smoking parlor room and cut off cloth to use as a mask. You then remove a painting and solve a word puzzle behind it. The clues to the answer are in the hallway, but I couldn't make sense of it. But even with a guide, remember that my cursor is inverted and the spacing of the sentences wasn't very clear, so I was stuck on this puzzle for a while. If your timer is running low, you can duck out and go back in, but the puzzle resets. My reward for this is an indication of where a certain item may be. Is there any reason I couldn't just go over there and get the item without solving this? Get into the study, do stuff with the clock, and blow your way into the library. And who do we find?
Thank you! Thank you! Oh my god! You've activated the countdown of the no-bell bomb contrived by this malicious mummy! We'll all die, and all doors are blocked!
Lord Montcalf, I suppose. Is it possible to disarm that machine?
Alas, I noticed the devilish creature making this infernal machine, but I don't know how it works! My mama will be blown up!
Well, that escalated pretty quickly. The final level's on a timer, but it's a generous one. The staircase is electrified, so if you touch it, to shut it down, you need to head over to the bookshelf across the way and find the loudest generator behind it. The items inside can help shut it down. Before progressing, examine the gun and see that it hasn't been handled by a mummy. Going downstairs, you can find that Lord Montcalf keeps a dynamite manual and has personally ordered items for said dynamite. A lot of pieces are coming together, and it is a very grim puzzle. The final puzzle, in contrast, feels like the developers were trolling me. While picking up items and searching the floor, you find a panel with no lever. The lever in question is hidden behind something called, and I kid you not, logic art. This is very much a real pastime, and the concept behind it is interesting. The most frustrating thing is that I tried this several times, filling in everything with white tiles and then putting black ones over where they were intended to be, but it never worked. The solution is to put black tiles over where they're needed and putting the white ones around it. I looked up guides online and both should work, but this one is what solves it. What exactly are we making? This. This was definitely a troll moment. Whatever, get the lever and the coffin will reveal a trapdoor leading back into the laboratory. The bomb is there, and with the items we've collected, we create the most needlessly convoluted way to disarm a bomb. But by golly, it works! We've reached the end, but Dark Mage Watson finally arrives, and his black magic makes the game distorted every time I click the record clip button. Either that or it's Elizabeth Montcalf, who just walks down the stairs as if she's been here the whole time. What exactly is going on here? Well, I'll tell you. The mummy was indeed Lord Montcalf, obsessed with reincarnating himself due to his sickness. This much I figured out. What I didn't expect was his motivation to don the mummy persona. He discovered that Elizabeth was the leader of the Dawn of Gods group, alongside her cousin Parquet. She wanted to have the treasures her father had, but Lord Montcalf wouldn't allow it before his fake death. So, he created the mummy persona and developed dissociative disorder to combat his traitorous family. Elizabeth hired Holmes to disarm the booby traps, hoping that he would be dead by them or Parquet's hands. With that, both Elizabeth and Montcalf are taken away, and the mystery is wrapped up. Freaking finally. From how I sound, I've made this game out to be an overall bad experience. It's not. Mystery of the Mummy hooked me in with its premise, and I found it fun to solve. The music is really good, and is one of the best soundtracks I've heard from a Frogwares game. The voice acting is alright, if only because it's sparse. But the puzzles. I was going to say that if someone who has never seen my review asked if I would recommend it, I would have said, sure, if you're a masochist. Looking back at the footage, I realized that some of the puzzles I had difficulty with could have been solved if I had just explored and found more items. Maybe if my mouse pointer had worked and the graphics hadn't been the POV of Holmes needing glasses, I would have gotten through these much quicker. That doesn't stop the others from feeling like difficulty spikes, even more so than in the original Wakened and Nemesis. So, if someone asked me about this game without having watched this video, I'd tell them that this game is better watched than played. This game nearly made my brain go numb from how much cognitive power I was pushing to get through. So, instead of moving on to the next Holmes game, I need something less intensive. Something like... Wait. That music. That'll do.